then. So I haven't made a video in a while because I've been too busy. Been doing music related videos because I'm suffering with tendinosis, chronic tendinitis, so I haven't been playing, unfortunately. But I have, with the weather getting better, been out in the woods an awful lot. So I'm just out with my mate Molly the dog, just having a mooch. I'm going to try and find some pine resin, see what else is about. So I'll make it a quick video. So this is the section of woods we're heading to, which is just above the stepping stones. If you know where we are, you know where we are. I'm going to hazard a guess that due to the relentless damage caused to these trees in this wood, that there'll be an awful lot of resin. May even be some fatwood if we're lucky. So if you know where we are, congratulations. This is where you want to go for your resin and your fatwood. Wild garlic's out. Quite early yet, though there are some unopened flowers. Lords and ladies are starting to grow too. Watch out for those, especially with dogs and small children. We're seeing this an awful lot in forests and woodlands now. Little dens being made by people. Didn't anticipate coming this way, but I'm going to come this way because I do love a good den. I'm absolutely here for it. It's a sign that people are getting out and having fun in the woods. Usually kids and families, but whoever. Getting out and having fun. Got all that wild garlic too. Awesome. Word of advice for you in these woods though. Be very careful at night, as you may slip and fall down into the gorge, and I don't want to have to come and rescue you. Also, don't drink the water. Even if you boil and filter it, a lot of it has come through a mine, so it's very acidic. If you look at certain areas of the woods, especially after a good storm, you'll see the ochre down by the beck, which is acid mine water discharge. There is a treatment place for it not too far by, and there's a couple of signs down at the top and bottom of the woods about the acid mine discharge program. This is the standard trees which I was on about, and like all of the other pine resin videos, I'll show you stumps where the resin might be. You can probably see burnt tree, burnt tree, burnt tree, burnt tree, a couple over there where the local youth delinquents, or adult delinquents even, have done quite a bit of damage to this wood. But it does play a benefit. As you can see, there's an awful lot of sap about on these trees, awful lot of resin. We're here for that. So this is a perfect example of where tree damage results in a massive amount of sap, especially on the base of the tree. But if you look further up where branches have come off, there's a beautiful patch there. If I had a ladder, then I'd have that bit, but I'm going to leave that alone. You do have to be careful and not to take too much off each tree. But if we look just standing here, there's 3 good ones over there, 3 good ones over there, and a couple over here. There's this on the floor which I'm going to check for fatwood, and there's obviously all of your tree stumps. Let's see, this shiny stuff around the edges, that's the resin, where the resin's rose. Here we can see the wild example of people misusing the woods and leaving the litter behind. In this case, an amaretto bottle. We'll pick that up before we leave and bin it. But now that we're at our spot, what I like to do is use my spare dog lead and a carabiner to hold my bag up off the floor so my back doesn't get wet or mucky when I come to leave. Alternatively, I have got a length of paracord and or a sling that I sometimes use if I ain't got the dog out with us. They work just as fine. I've got an S hook, so if I'm hammocking, what I do is when I've got my hammock set up around the tree and my tarp, I put the S-hook through one of the loops and I hook my bag on it, and then one at the other end for my boots. Getting comfy there, mate. We'll put this at the base of this tree so we don't get to take it when we leave. But there's quite a nice piece here. What I like to do when I'm collecting pine resin is to put a piece of greaseproof paper at the base of the tree that collects as much of it as we can and keeps as much debris out of it as we can, also it doesn't stick to it. What we've got to do when we're collecting pine resin, as you can see, it is acting like a scab on the tree. We've got to be very careful not to take too much. So an example, I've made a cut here. As you can see, I've cut some resin off it, which is this piece here, but I've left enough that the tree isn't leaking anymore and its wound isn't exposed, so that prevents, or at least reduces, the risk of infection and disease to the tree. So we can't be too greedy, which is why I like to take little bits off each tree and move on to the next one. As you can see, it's nice and gooey and comes off really easily, and that just goes onto that paper at the bottom there. There we go. Moving on. So as you can see, the paper at the bottom of the tree collects most of the saps that come off. It's just off this small area of one tree. I haven't gone too deep. I've made sure to leave a nice layer of resin so the tree is not exposed to risk. And in fairness, I've only took old resin. It's almost like glass. I like to wear a pair of gloves when I'm doing this, because as you can see, it starts to build up. Pine resin does have an affinity for your skin, so to remove it from your skin, you've first got to dissolve it in an oil. I like to use olive oil and then wash it with a degreasing soap, which I use hair shampoo when I get home.
So as you can see, from just a very short amount of time in one area of a tree, we've got a massive amount of resin. Yes, it's full of detritus, it's full of bark and pine needles, but later in this video I will show you how we can purify that. I'm going to leave this tree alone now, give it a chance to recover. Thanks, tree. I think that's also this bag full. So for pine resin, that might be us for the day. I've got a little bit more space, but I'm not going to be greedy. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to move on to try and find some fatwood from that dead fell that we saw earlier in the video. Let's see how we get on. For carrying it out the woods, what I like to do, get a zip top freezer bag, line it out with greaseproof paper or parchment paper, and then pour from my main piece into the bag, and it just means that less sticks to it. Yes, you'll find that you'll get a lot sticking to the bottom and dust to the bottom, but for the majority it won't stick to the bag. As we can see, I've barely touched each tree. There's some trees which I haven't even touched at all, which are absolutely overflowing with resin. There's no reason to be greedy. It's a resource that hopefully will always be here. I've taken from maybe 10 different trees, and I probably won't collect from this spot now for at least another year. I may come back for some of the trees I haven't touched, but it's very unlikely. I will be not greedy, I'll be fair and reasonable, and I'll give the trees opportunity to recover, and I'll leave some resin for other people who may come and harvest it. What we want now is to look at this tree that's laying down, specifically near to the bottom of it. We're going to take a look around these regions. Slightly higher up than we'd be able to reach if it were standing. But you can see here there's a lot of resin pouring down, especially around these dark rings. We're moving towards this fallen tree, and what we're going to do, we're going to look at these lower down branches, ideally the snapped ones and the cut ones, not the long ones. We're not going to look up the top end of the tree where the needles are, where it's still relatively healthy though it's fallen. We're going to look down the bottom where there's injured branches like this, snapped branches where it's fallen, because that'll be where all the resins get pumped to. So I'm going to look for one that looks ideal. This one looks good down here. And then what we're looking for in these is a very turpentine smell. They'll be significantly more heavy at one end. This one's this end heavy, even though it leans that way. It's very heavy. We're also looking for these patches where the resins start to fill up, this shiny patch. That's fatwood. You can take twigs. This one's even better. You can probably see this yellowing section here. That's fatwood. They don't need to be huge sections. This one's quite fat, but not super fat actually. That's a bit better. This end, see, I split this one off along the branch that was on the floor with my axe. Fatwood. So all these, that turpentine telltale smell, the darkening of the wood, and sometimes a very shiny section of wood. So we're going to work through these and process them and look, see if we find any. Very fat. So I'm going to get a couple more, and then I'm going to process them with the axe and show you what our findings are. Not sure if you can hear that. While I'm in the woods processing the fatwood, 4 buzzards are flying overhead. Now I know in this wood specifically there's at least 3 mating pairs. Currently 4 of the birds are out. So there's 2 of the pairs, there's 2 of the birds. They're flying together just there. It's a shame they're not flying in that open area above my head. Here's a great example of some fatwood on the branch. As you can see towards the thinner end here, it's more white. This end, it's more reddy orange colour. Here's some from the centre of one of the logs, which is actually so fat it's still wet with resin. And I've got a couple of pieces of that there. That's my pile of wood which I need to take away with me for further processing. And here's what's left over, which I'll leave in a nice neat pile, ready for when I come back to do my pine tar video. While preparing to leave, I came across the absolute motherload of fatwood. So take this fallen tree here, different one to where we were at before, where the roots are exposed. The ones that were sticking up the top were all fatty and dead. They were really dry. They actually were showing the fatwood at the top. So if ever you come across these fallen trees and you need a fatwood, check out the roots. Leave the ones at the bottom alone that are still in the ground. Just the ones that are sticking up at the top and damaged. They should reveal a sizable amount of fatwood. There you go. Just pull a dead one there, and you can see it's just inside. So now that I've got a surplus, if you know where this spot is, and you see this dead felled tree, take a look just underneath the trunk. You might find some pre-cut, semi-prepared fatwood left for you. Feel free to take it if you know where this spot is. So there we go. The area in which I was preparing the fatwood. Just splitting some logs down and sawing through some. Obviously you can see the marks where my knees and boots have been. I have covered those over with stuff as best I can. There's very little sign that I've been here. Fair enough, there's some flat ends cut, but we are in a working forest and we are in a rather high footfall area. So much so there's actually somebody stood at the top of the woods now with a dog. Like I say, there's some pre-cut fatwood. It's not the fattiest of fatwood, some really good pieces, but it's just a surplus of what I couldn't fit in my pack. Once I found the extra dead fell tree. I've had no fires, so there's nothing to put out and cover up and scatter around to get rid of the ashes.
We've got a couple of cans and some empty bottles which we've cleared away from this area, which we'll put in the bin on the way out when we pass one. So I'll continue this video at home. Right, Molly, let's go. Over then, come on. Good girl. The way this moss, or lichen, I think it's lichen, grows on this tree is very interesting. It shows the symbiotic nature that trees have with other organisms. Here we can see quite a few really nice specimens of Daldinia concentrica, King Alfred's cakes, also known as a crampball fungus. Really useful fungus, used for firelighting. It'll take a spark, carrying an ember between locations. They're also called the coal fungus, so they can be used as a hot coal. If they're ignited, they will burn hot ember, much like coal, and you can cook on them. Hard, inedible, you wouldn't want to eat them, but very useful fungus. If you look inside, look very much like charcoal. They behave in exactly the same way as charcoal. So that's the King Alfred's cake, Daldinia concentrica. Since we've participated in the enjoyment of nature and even took some of its resources, we have a responsibility to look after it and keep it tidy and clean, which includes taking the litter of others away with us, especially if we've took some of the resources. This little bird here wants to be on my hand maybe. He's not scared. Molly, stop. Bye then, little friend. Little friend. You got something stuck in your mouth, mate? Hmm? Something stuck? Yeah. Bye, friend. So, as a result of today's foray, we have a basket of fatwood, some absolutely the highest of quality. I'm still yet to finish processing. I'm going to do that tomorrow maybe, or another day. But you can just see how shiny it is, how resinous these pieces of wood actually are. There's people who pay good money for this on the internet. This won't be for sale, this will be for use in my own fires, firelighting, probably a video. I do anticipate making a video of the production of pine tar and pine oil, which requires a load of this. So I'll be doing that in the woods one day. and I'll just get some at the time. There's this bag of super fatty Fatwood, just so fat it's still wet. You can look at that, insane. That came out of a bigger log. And then what we've got here is we've got some indirect heated and cleaned resin. This took quite a while, low temperature, a lot of time to produce. Very sticky. That's pine resin. We've also got the precursor to that, which is partially processed pine resin. We've probably got about a kilo of it here. It's yet to be properly filtered, so it's had all the big bits of crap, like the bark and the bits, separated from it. But it does need to be indirectly heated slowly and filtered. So I may do another video on the production of those, but I'll do those outside, not inside. Next video will probably be turning some of this sort of stuff into pine oil and pine tar. Anyway, that's my video for today on the collection of pine resin and of Fatwood. So I hope you've enjoyed. Stay tuned for more content. Now, I did forget to say in the video there that pine resin should be stored in greaseproof paper or a metal container or a glass jar, ideally in the freezer. I store mine in greaseproof paper inside of a plastic bag, a freezer bag, in the freezer, as it makes it significantly easier to handle. It makes it brittle and it makes it much less tacky. So that's just a little bit of a tip for the storage and handling of. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Love you loads. Cheerio.